Some movies are highbrow, some movies are lowbrow. Welcome to Highbrow Lowbrow. I'm Cooper Gagan.
And I'm Josh Gershenbaum.
Each week we pick a topic and talk about two movies that fit that topic. One highbrow, one lowbrow. This week the topic is Vegas.
That's Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
For those listening at home. So, yes, we're talking about the city.
Yeah, and no movies, just the city itself. On the highbrow side, we have Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. On the lowbrow side, we've got The Hangover. And on my side right here, we have Michael Slater, our first guest.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Longtime friend of the show and friend of you guys.
Yeah.
First, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah.
Michael Slater.
Yeah. Current and future guest.
Current and future guests.
And,
I like that.
And
I like the sound of that.
The past being 10 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Past, current, future.
Yeah.
You're going through time backwards.
You are unstuck in time, but always a guest.
Am I on the Tenet episode and you didn't tell me? I did not. I haven't seen that movie in months.
We specifically mentioned you on the Tenet episode.
I know. I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me, guys.
Oh, so he is listening.
Yeah. Now we're gonna test you. We're gonna quiz you on every episode to see which ones you listen to.
Don't act surprised. I texted you about it.
Cool.
So Michael is a person who likes Las Vegas.
I do.
Which is important because I am a person who is pretty medium on Las Vegas, and Cooper is...
Vegas kind of stresses me out sometimes.
I find it fun.
Yeah. I've had a lot of fun in Vegas, specifically with you, Michael.
Yeah.
I think one of our first times really hanging out outside of work was a Vegas trip.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went skydiving. And the skydiving trip was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had. Falling out of an airplane. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good. I mean, look, we tackle a lot of issues on the show. We tackle issues like time travel, like drums.
The important stuff.
Drums our dumbest theme.
I mean, it's the most like I said,
your dumbest theme so far.
Yes,
you
exactly.
still do.
I mean, we could do other instruments, right?
Oh,
Could we?
Flutes?
Flute? I don't think we could do
I don't
flute.
think there's two flutes moving.
No, I mean
Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's.
So, and then the cut scenes from like one of the Zelda games.
Yeah.
We thought that it wouldn't be as much fun if we did an episode in Vegas and we were both like, we're not Vegas people, so we brought on a Vegas person, and also we like Michael and he's our friend, and we thought he would say funny things for the next hour and change, hour 15, hour
I'm
20.
gonna try.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna both be silent, and you can say all the funny stuff right now.
Oh no!
Just get it out of the way.
I don't have a tight 5 on Vegas.
Oh no, you're gonna need an hour.
You're gonna need a loose and shaggy hour.
You need a tight 60.
Oh boy.
So let's talk about these movies. Cooper, what is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas about?
What is it about, really?
That's why I asked.
It's about basically nothing. So Raoul Duke, he's the thinly veiled stand-in for Hunter Thompson, the famous gonzo journalist, and he takes an assignment to report on the Mint 500, which is a motorcycle race in Vegas, and they really never report on neither the Mint 500 or anything, really.
He sort of
He
tries.
shows up
He
there.
goes there for a second. For like a second.
And in his defense, he's
fun
stymied.
scene.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's stymied by his hallucination of what other people think of him, and also that it's Vietnam. And that's not. I mean, it is his fault, but if he'd gotten a nicer hallucination, maybe he would have covered the race more.
No, it's his fault for being really high and trying to do his job.
Yeah. And then, so then to spur the creative process, he brings along his lawyer, Dr. Gonzo, played by Benicio del Toro. And they end every single drug in the world, just all the drugs in a briefcase.
Yes.
He's got like a Zero Halliburton case. It's pretty cool. And then they get high, destroy their hotel room, run up a giant room service bill, insult the help, burn the locals, terrify the tourists, and then go home.
They destroy another hotel room. They destroyed two.
They destroy hotel rooms. Yeah.
It's funny. As I was watching it, I made the note that was like they just leave a wake of destruction.
Yeah.
They like go to Las Vegas and just terrorize the locals and leave a wake of destruction.
Yeah. My thing that I was thinking about is that they actually have a terrible time over the course of the movie.
Oh yeah, none of that is enjoyable.
Yeah, they are constantly. It's like how bad experiences always make good stories.
Oh yeah,
I was like
definitely.
throughout the course of this whole thing, they're constantly freaking out. They're in danger. They're just like stressed out. They can't handle anything, and they're just being awful, horrible assholes to everyone in the world in the process.
I think that's why I like it as a Vegas. Like, I don't hate Vegas. I've never had like a bad time in Vegas, but I've never had like a magical time there. But I do like that this movie is like, we're gonna do the stereotypical. We're just gonna do a ton of drugs and hit Vegas, and they do see a lot of Vegas, and it's just not very pleasant.
Well, they also see all the different kind of tiers of Vegas because they go to the Strip, and then they go to kind of
Fremont Street.
Yeah, like they kind of go like to
Old
Fremont
Vegas?
Street. Yeah, like Old Vegas, Fremont Street, and then they go to off Vegas.
They go like North Vegas to the end.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
all the different types.
Yeah. And Cooper, ask me what The Hangover is about.
What's the Hangover about?
So The Hangover is about a guy named Doug is getting married. Him and three of his friends, they go to Vegas for a bachelor party. But they wake up the next morning. They have no idea what happened. There's a tiger in the room. There's a baby in the room. Everything's destroyed.
They get rid of that baby pretty quickly. I forgot.
They have to.
Yeah.
I
Because
mean,
you can't write a movie where people have to constantly deal with a baby.
right, and it's
tough.
You can't.
Yeah.
And you
I mean,
especially
or
get a movie
unless
that's
you make the
fun.
movie about that. Then
Right.
it's three men and a baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it's just like Jackie Chan's holding a baby and he's like on a ladder and like fighting people, in which he's like, that's okay.
Is there actually a movie where he is holding a baby?
There must. It's such a
Because I know
meme.
there's like a Twitter meme of that.
Right.
Just trying to not get in any trouble.
There's a subreddit I love called Who Would Win, where just like people kind of like who would win a fight between X and Y, and like one of their like legendary fighters is Jackie Chan holding a baby who
Yeah.
doesn't want any trouble while he's on a ladder.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they basically just try and figure out what happened the night before. They meet Mike Tyson. They meet Ken Jeong, who plays a man named Leslie Chow, who's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they eventually find out Doug was on the roof, and they forgot. Oh, and also they got roofied, but they kind of roofied themselves, and that's on them.
Yeah. Wait.
They were trying to buy ecstasy, and they,
Right. And
they got roofing all
I
instead.
actually, I kind of missed what the actual practicalities, the mechanics of how they got roofies were. Because Mike Epps says it wasn't roofies.
But he also says he mixed up his bags.
Yeah,
Oh.
They
that's
asked
really
about
what it is.
And he's like, "Oh man, I'm always doing that."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just missed that one line.
Yeah, I mean, by that point,
was pretty quick.
Yeah, and it's great.
The funny thing is because I haven't seen this movie in a long time, since pretty close to when it came out, I remembered it as Zach Galifianakis just deliberately roofied them.
Me too. That I even told my wife, and we got married in Vegas, which might be part of the reason why I'm on this.
Yeah, at one of the little wedding chapel. Well, not that one, but
no. Actually, I made the note.
Oh, okay.
The one that they went to in The Hangover was one that I was looking at booking for our wedding when I was just going to spring it on her at the in Vegas. I was going to propose and be like, "Hey, let's get married here." I smartly didn't do that. I asked her a few weeks earlier and said, "Hey, what if we got married in Vegas instead of getting engaged?" And that was one of the places I was looking at before we decided to plan it together as opposed to separately, because it was $40 to do a wedding there, and I was like, okay, if she says no, I'm only be out $40 as opposed to hundreds of dollars. So yeah, we actually looked at that one. That one it's very cheesy. That was the one where you have the Elvis impersonator and all of that. What were we talking about?
Las Vegas,
yeah.
the winds.
Well, no, they go to the little chapel.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of a classic Vegas experience, I guess.
Yeah.
What are the classic Vegas movie? What are the check boxes you got to
I
hit?
feel like
Gambling.
they did a good job of hitting a lot of the stuff that's oh, what do you think of Vegas? It's sports, boxing, especially at that time, boxing. Now it would probably be UFC, but they hit Tyson with that. They have gambling. Actually, I don't know if they actually show them gambling.
Yeah, they do.
Because that's how they get the $80,000.
Oh, that's right.
The Rain
yes,
Man
that's right. The Rain
sequence.
Man,
They do-
reference
and,
actually is really that's really fun.
And bringing down the house. Did you ever read that book, Bringing Down the House, about the MIT card counting team?
That's the one they turned into that movie 21.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I didn't see that movie either.
Oh, the book is good. I never saw the movie.
The movie, I remember it made a lot of money. It was this weird surprise hit, and then it just sort of nothing ever came of that. It was it didn't kick off another round of
It wasn't
Vegas
like
movies.
Rounders.
Yeah, it wasn't the world wasn't oh, let's get into poker again. It was no, we kind of have all decided where we are on poker as a culture.
Well, they are not even playing poker. They're just playing blackjack.
Yeah, they're playing.
Now,
the movie's
what
called
I-
21.
Yeah, well, I don't play a lot of cards. That's why we brought you.
This is how
That's
little
why
of a
we
Vegas
brought
guy you are. Get out. Michael's the new host.
Hi, I'm your new host.
Before we get any further, The Hangover was directed by Todd Phillips. It was written by John Lucas and Scott Moore. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was directed by Terry Gilliam, written by Terry Gilliam and Tony Grisoni, and Todd Davis and Alex
Oh,
Cox.
we can get into how ampersands and ands works. I was explaining it to Hannah last night. She was not interested at all. I was like,
Gilliam and Grisoni got the ampersands, Davies and Alex got the ampersands, and then the word and connected them. So two writing teams worked on it separately and both got credit.
yeah. So if you're not in the industry, ampersands and ands mean different things in credits. Ampersand is a writing team, and they get paid as one person basically, and means they're separate humans that have, their own souls.
And based on this, it seems like Alex Cox is like a filmmaker, obviously, who was like very big in the 80s. And so it seems like he must have been developing Fear and Loathing, and then Gilliam took over with his writing partner, and here we are.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book?
No, I've never read anything.
I read it in high school.
Yeah.
And that was like the first time I saw this movie too.
Yeah, I read it a lot in high school. And from what I remember, this movie's really faithful.
Like you read it multiple times?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I read it like 3 or 4 times in high school. Wow. I just like that book a lot. It's also short. Yeah, it's like a really surprisingly faithful adaptation, which even...
I do remember that, yeah. From what I remember of the book, it was like essays of the 60s, like with kind of minimal story in between of them just being high and causing chaos in Las Vegas.
Much like the movie, because it is...
Which is the movie.
It is the movie.
Like pretty dead on.
Yeah, I mean, much like how real life doesn't work in story structure, this is actually... Weirdly, it's pretty faithful to what actually probably happened, and it's just a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of shit that happens.
It's super episodic, and I will say Hangover also fairly episodic, but they do have that central like task they're trying to accomplish. Where, like Raoul Duke here is not really. There's no goal he's getting for except just to see where he goes, and he ends up going nowhere except getting sad about the '60s ending, which is really like really emotional like. Element to this movie.
That speech, like the wave speech, that's like a really kind of like the pivot, like the focal point of the book, and it's just this really beautiful speech about how like the 60s being this rising wave of optimism, and then the 70s was like the point where the wave broke and came back.
Yeah,
and also it kind of feels like I feel like we're in that point now. Like it's like the 2010s were the wave, and we're like at the point where it broke and came back, and it just kind of sucks.
Yeah, I will say so. That is the correct take. An emotional reaction.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you for allowing me to have the correct take.
No, it's just that I'm going to give an incorrect take.
Oh, okay,
that's why I'm saying
cool.
that. But it's just about Terry Gilliam directs this movie, and this is the last great movie he did. He's made other movies I enjoy since then, but his run from Time Bandits in 1982 to this movie in 1998.
So you're saying Hunter Thompson predicted Terry Gilliam's career in his book?
What I'm saying is that's like such a one of the greatest runs of any director ever. Like every one of those movies is worth seeing and could be someone's favorite movie.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of ended, and he's just sort of petered out and like kind of been coasting on that. And I don't know, as a big fan of his, when I was rewatching this movie, I just like felt that connection of like he was this like great artist who had just with this thing just finished, and he's just sort of been kicking around after that.
Yeah.
And so far the only director we've covered on this podcast twice.
Have we done Ridley? Oh, we kind of did Ridley Scott twice, but it's in a lost episode.
Right. So it doesn't exist yet unless we one of us gets COVID again and we have to release another.
This is really on me.
Yeah. Don't get COVID.
I can't go to any public gatherings, or else we're gonna have to release a lost episode.
Well, I could still record with you with COVID because I had COVID like a few weeks ago.
Oh yeah. So we're safe.
Yeah. Get as much COVID as you want.
All right, here we go. I'm going to a bar. We're gonna record the next episode from a crowded bar.
In one of like the really weird like red areas of like Southern California. Like, we're gonna go out to Bakersfield.
We're gonna go to Huntington.
Yeah. No, but back to the actual...
I don't want to go to Bakersfield. Why would you pick that? There's all these nice beach cities full of Republicans we could go to, and you want to go to Baker?
I don't really have a response to that. It was the first Republican area I could think of.
Okay.
Let's talk about the 60s, which is the actual theme of this movie.
Yeah.
It's sort of
because he starts off when he goes off on like the opening voiceover when he's talking about what the goal of the trip is. He says this to basically explore the American dream.
Right.
And he talks about Horatio Alger over and over. Mm-hmm. Do you know very much about Horatio Alger?
Yeah.
I just know the name, basically.
Yes, Horatio Alger was very famous for writing these rags to riches stories about like people, like I think during the Depression specifically. I mean, I'm drawn as like reading this years ago, but that's my understanding is Horatio Alger was like the American dream. Anybody can work their way up, especially like it was these Depression era stories that like inspired people. That like anyone could make it and like become successful in this, and that's I think obviously like that's now a focal point of like maybe that's not a dream that America's delivered for a lot of people.
Yeah, pulling up yourself by your bootstraps is the funny thing is the saying itself is about how that's impossible to do.
It's intentionally silly to say that it's not. Yeah, it somehow became shorthand for an impossible thing.
Yeah,
right. Horatio Alger. Yeah, so he's talking about the American dream. I think the commentary in this movie. I think the movie's so good at like dramatizing like the culture war. There's like thing of like Hunter S. Thompson or Raoul Duke. Everyone he sees who is like a middle-aged white man with like a high and tight or high like haircut is like he thinks that they hate him. Like there's literally
there's a bunch of cops. There are literal cops.
But there's also the scene where like he runs into his photographer in the desert and he imagines him as like basically getting pulled over by like soldiers in Nam. Like it kind of felt, I was not alive in the 60s, but it kind of maybe that's what he's like evoking, this idea of like the culture was so great that like, you know, if you were like a hippie like Thompson, no, hippie's not quite the right word. Like running into someone who is not in your counterculturiness would be actually physically dangerous to you, and like that's like the
for sure,
of
which it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I was not alive in the 60s,
which is like ironic because they are the most dangerous part of the movie.
Yeah. Everybody in this movie is constantly nice and helpful to them, and they respond by shooting guns, waving a knife around,
threatening people on elevators and everywhere else with knives and guns. Yeah, Dr. Gonzo is like the most terrifying person to go anywhere with.
Oh yeah. He's just that one friend who's just, as soon as they get drunk, they're just a fucking nightmare, and he's
drunk
constantly
all the time.
He's constantly fucked up.
I mean, I don't want to turn this into just like listing funny scenes of Dr. Gonzo.
Okay, we can do our little shooting gallery. Get to do a couple.
Around. I mean, number one. Lying in the bathtub, wanting him to throw the record player in right as White Rabbit peaks.
Yeah,
and he just hits him in the head with an orange instead.
Yeah. Also, I mean, the lizard scene is so good.
Oh, yeah, the hallucination within the lobby.
And that's like such classic Gilliam with the kind of like very rubbery props and makeup.
The fisheye lenses, the weird trippiness.
Yeah. Which is funny. I saw that, like, when I first saw the movie when I was in high school, and it's been a very long time since I've rewatched it. And I remember the lizards part, but what I didn't remember was like the trippiness of like the animation that they do with the rug, like climbing and like that. I was like, oh, that's like way more like realistic to how like when you're on a hallucinogen, things end up like you perceive things. I thought that was like a really nice touch, and it kind of gets lost because they do the big like lizard people scene, which is really funny, but I do think it's funny.
Yeah. Well, that's like one thing I was constantly thinking is that like this is clearly made by somebody who has done a lot of drugs, because it was written by Hunter Thompson, who has done more drugs than any person in the world.
Right.
Yeah. But there's so many movies that just they depict. I feel like this great example is the Simpsons episode where Homer smokes weed.
Right. It's like an acid trip. It's a vision request. Yeah.
Yeah. He does a whole acid trip where he's floating in the car and he shaves and the rainbows come out because he cut himself shaving. It's very funny, but it's not weed at all. It's acid.
Right. And even then, like when movies like you're saying, like Michael, to your point, like when movies depict acid, it's always just like very clear, like, oh, that chair is now a talking dog that is just like tangible and physical. But like really hallucinogenics are much more like ephemeral, much more abstract, like the thing with on the ground with the pattern of the rug moving and climbing up the walls.
Yeah. It's I guess it's that those movies that kind of treat hallucinogens like they're dreams.
Right, which is a tried and true story thing you can do as you're a writer, but it's not like, I mean, it's not really good if you're trying to make a movie about drugs.
Yeah,
which is
and it makes sense because I mean, I imagine most people, like, even if you haven't done drugs, everybody has had a dream, and you're just like, yeah, I imagine that dream was weird when I woke up. I imagine that's what it's like to be on a hallucinogen, and it's not really.
And also the point, like, what this movie gets really good about being high is that being high can be very stressful.
Oh, it really gets into when you're just in like a hole of like when you just like, get in a hole you can't get out of. Plot structure kind of works like that, where you kind of get in, like you have your dip where it's like your K-hole, but in this movie it's like actual just drug structure where they've just been high for too long.
Right.
As much as drugs have structure.
Right. And whereas, I mean, Hangover, they do a drug by accident. And I will say, to the Hangover's credit, it doesn't do that thing of like, you know, they could have been they just drank too much and blacked out, but they do the roofie thing, and you know, the Hangover does not like do drugs wrong, but it's not really doing drugs.
They don't do drugs.
I mean, they do roofies.
Yeah,
by accident.
The funny thing is, I was preparing myself for it to have some kind of dumb drug depictions, and they really just breeze right past that. They just wake up.
They don't do any of it.
Yeah, they don't do that at all.
Because they're sober the entire time. Like they do the shot of Jaeger on the rooftop, and then they like the pans over the rest of like the skyline of Vegas, and it. Yeah, I think that's a really nice way to indicate the time jump, and they wake up completely messed up. The entire place is trashed.
Did we need the roofies? as a plot device, as like a plot mechanic?
I think I will say this: it helps explain the full blackout because like if you
For
black out
all
when
of
you're
them.
drinking,
Yeah, that's true. For all of them, it makes sense.
right?
Yeah.
Because the odds of all four of I mean, look, you could have done it; they all just got too drunk. But that it says when you get drunk and black out, you remember things building up to it.
Yeah.
And
Which they kind of do, but they don't show it.
Right.
They talk about it a little tiny bit.
But I will say the movie also them accidentally getting roofies lets them do the switch out with the Mike Epps Doug instead of you know, which I think is very funny.
That was very funny. Because I forgot about that completely.
Yeah. Also, it's really freaking funny that
laughed
Alan
out loud a lot.
Alan tried to drug them with ecstasy.
Yeah.
Because he's such a crazy guy, and like the fact that he did it in this really sweet way of like, I want these cool guys to like me because they're cool guys.
My wolf pack.
My
Oh my
wolf
God,
pack.
I was thinking the Wolfpack. The Wolfpack speech is actually very sweet and
Yeah.
kind of made me have some feelings.
Yeah.
I did not remember that at all because I feel like maybe the greatest cultural impact of this movie is that Wolfpack speech.
Yeah.
I feel like people repeat it a lot. That and people saying bye. The way that Ed Helms says bye to his wife on the phone, I think that has secretly stayed in our culture a lot more than people realize.
It's one of those things you can't even track where it came from, but now here it is.
Yeah, I think it's from this movie. And
I didn't even clock that as I was watching it.
Yeah. Because I remember because I sometimes say bye as a joke. And I was like, where is that from? I know I didn't make that up. And then I found a compilation of Ed Helms saying bye over and over and over from this movie.
He's so great. And one thing I loved, I noticed this when the movie came out in the reviews, of the all three of them are really good, and each of them could be like your standout. Like Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, and Zach Galifianakis. Obviously, Zach Galifianakis has like the big pop from this.
Yeah,
like now he's a movie superstar.
This was his breakout, right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
he was just doing like weird alt comedy.
Yeah.
Before this, and Ed Helms was a Daily Show correspondent before this, and Bradley Cooper obviously had been
Professionally handsome.
Yeah, well, he was in Alias, and then he was in like Wedding Crashers
Right.
and stuff. But like this, I think was him being like, I'm a leading man now.
Yeah.
and then he now he's like just the biggest movie star in the world or whatever.
The thing I like about this movie is that it starts off and it feels really mean-spirited. Like, I was kind of surprised at how relentlessly assholey they all are in Act 1.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bradley
then
Cooper especially.
Bradley Cooper is a monster.
Very
in Act 1.
off-putting.
But then they eventually kind of start to care for each other. And I guess it is gradual, but they actually do show genuine affection as friends to each other by the end of it.
I literally made the note as I was watching is like Bradley Cooper's character arc is that he learns empathy.
Yeah.
like not even like a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
Just
the
like
minimal
don't
amount.
yeah, just don't mess. Like it's that scene where like when they're getting their car back from the cop impound and Zach Galifianakis is like stressing out about it.
Yeah,
and
I love that
And
scene.
and he's like, dude, not like Ed Helms is like, that car is trash, and it's like, dude, not right now. It's like, oh, the smallest amount of human empathy.
And I guess you needed him to be that much of a dirtbag in the first part of the movie
Yeah.
because that small amount of just kindness really landed for
that
me.
tiny needle jump of
Yeah.
I will say, I think not that this movie often gets the tick that it like has not aged well. I think weirdly the thing that
Ken Jeong, I think, is the part that ages the least well.
I actually have a
the
thing on that, 'cause
Godzilla
I looked
joke
up,
did not.
I looked
Yeah.
up Ken Jeong doing interviews about it.
Okay.
Let me make the point about Bradley Cooper. Then we can
Sure,
go
yeah,
with
okay.
that. But to me, the thing that didn't age well was the Bradley Cooper character. That he comes off so strong and comes like there is, I think, this character type of this super bro-y asshole-ish guy who nonetheless gets to be in the friend group that I think
Right.
we've as a
he's
culture
Vince Vaughn,
decided
Vince
that we're-
Vaughn from Old School,
Right.
is the same character, but a lot more likable, a lot
Right.
softer.
And I think we've a culture mostly decided that like that character is not someone we want to still be friends with people at the end. Like with you, I often see this. I've been reading a lot about like How I Met Your Mother because the new spinoff is out, and I think that show's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that problem with Barney, Neil Patrick Harris's character as well.
Right.
Although I will say, Bradley Cooper character is interesting because he has a wife and child.
yeah, and
like,
he is
Oh, yeah.
affectionate to them at the end.
Right. He is not just this asshole who won't grow up. He's a guy who grew up, but it kind of resents that he had to. And like, he's
Yeah.
just treating this as a weird one-off. It's like an interesting twist.
And I don't know. Sometimes I was wondering if it really is that his character is such an asshole and then learns empathy, or if it's just an unevenness in tone in the actual writing. If it was like a flaw in the writing of the movie that they just wrote him as an asshole in Act 1, and then because it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't seem like he learns it. It kind of seems like he just kind of starts acting that way. That because all the characters are kind of more affectionate to each other and more kind in Act 2 and 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are like they have to. I mean, they lost Doug, and like they.
Yeah, I guess.
I think they're all brought low to the point where they all kind of need each other to help each other through some shit.
Yeah.
Except weirdly, I
It
don't
was
know.
the friends they made along the way.
Yeah.
I think weirdly Ed
Or
Helms
the-
is just gets the worst of it. Like Zach Galifianakis feels no shame, and Bradley Cooper does. Okay, he gets jumped on by Ken Jeong, which is very funny.
He gets hit in the head with a crowbar.
Yeah.
He should be dead.
Yeah, I think that's part of like the reason why we're okay. At least I was okay with these characters being assholes, or at least Bradley Cooper's character being assholes, is how often they get like physically harmed, and like how often the movie
punished.
They are punished by being like for who they are and what they did in really funny ways.
Yeah, I mean, this is also definitely that style of movie where it's just everything's just teeing up these comedy set pieces, like the taser scene.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, Ken Jeong jumping out of the trunk. I laughed so hard when Ken Jeong jumped out of the trunk.
It might be one of. I mean, we'll dig into the problematic bits in just a second.
Yeah,
but
it's
seeing this movie for the first time in theaters and not even knowing who Ken Jeong was or like what was in the trunk, and you think it's gonna be Doug.
Yeah,
and the fact that it's a
the way
naked man, monkey leaps.
Was this his first thing?
He was in
his breakout.
He was in Knocked Up before this. He was just the doctor. It was like a very small role, but he's good.
Because he used to be a doctor.
Yes. Yeah. And he had been doing just like comedy and had bit roles and did stand up. So he knew. I think he knew some of the actors in Hangover beforehand, and he knew Todd Phillips a little bit.
Got it.
Pressing this with just because Ken Jeong is explained this way doesn't mean that like someone else couldn't still find it problematic. That this is just how he thought of it. Was basically Ken Jeong. One, it was a character that he like had pretty much like the voice was his decision, the accent was his decision, and like he had a lot of like free reign to decide what this character would be.
Yeah.
But what he said was that there's no Asian stereotype of a man leaping out of a trunk naked holding a crowbar.
Yeah.
And also him being naked was his decision, by the way.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah, and he went to Bradley Cooper, and Bradley Cooper was like, okay. And then when they were filming, Bradley Cooper was like, wow, this is really a lot. The Ken Jeong's whole thing was like, and he said, I've never done an accent in a movie other than this one.
Right.
Because his thing was he saw it as a meta joke of you think it's going to be these Asian stereotypes.
But then it's a gay stereotype?
No, but then the thing is his technique was I'm going to be so insane and make so many perplexing decisions that you can never really get a handle on what this man is. His whole thing was like, well, you think the Asian stereotype of this kind of guy would be more passive, but he's so insane. You can't really track like what his deal is. Like he basically wanted everything.
He is a character.
He wanted to be so dialed up that it was like unable to pin it down as a stereotype. Like that was his method. And whether you still find that offensive regardless is, I think, still fine. But like I just wanted, it felt fair to get Ken's voice.
I respect that decision making. On paper, I'm not sure if it's 100% successful, but I love the idea behind it. Yeah. And also, just that moment of Ken Jeong jumping naked out of the trunk onto Bradley Cooper's face, no matter how you feel about what happens after that, that is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It's like an all-time great like reveal, like the thing that happens in Burn After Reading, which I'll bleep it out if you say it, but it's just one of those like moments that you're just like, I didn't realize the rules of this movie allowed for that thing to happen, and it's just so fucking funny.
Yeah. For me, the more problematic bit with all of that was the jokes that Zach Galifianakis was making about Godzilla and those did not age well. Talk about things that didn't age well with this movie. That was probably the top of the list.
Oh yeah.
Of cringy. So and
also kind of the Middle Eastern owner of the chapel is I wouldn't say it's like super offensive, but it's not amazing.
Yeah.
I could see. I have not done a lot. I didn't go online and Google list of problematic things in The Hangover, but when I watched it, I thought if there was that list, this could certainly be on it.
Yeah, there was like a handful of times where I was like, man, like this is definitely stuff you don't see in movies anymore. There was a couple moments where I was like, I don't know, when Bradley Cooper's just yelling at him from the window. Yeah, I was like, I do kind of miss just characters being just shockingly offensive occasionally. Yeah. Maybe not in that specific way, but it is just fun when a movie is just offensive sometimes.
Right. You're talking about, okay, so I remember in the trailer they have that scene, but obviously they're not going to say that word, which is a certain slur. So they say paging Dr. Douchebag in the trailer.
I kind of wish it was that in the movie.
That's funny.
Because the funny thing is that he's yelling something, he's calling him a name in front of his wife when he's trying to calm down his wife.
Yeah.
So that is funny. And then using the offensive word isn't really what makes that joke funny. You don't actually need that part, but I just like the joke of him yelling at him when he's trying to calm down his wife. I thought that was funny.
I agree. I mean, is there anything in Fear and Loathing that's like that is problematic? I mean, not in the same way.
I mean,
I would say
they as people are
Yeah.
horrible to everyone.
certainly, but they
The stuff with the
But I
waitress.
think the movie knows that.
Yeah, I say the stuff with the waitress, but
I
they
think
are
it's-
treated as monsters in it.
I think that scene with the waitress where they like actually terrorize like this innocent person is
Yeah.
so crucial to this, because otherwise it's like they just had this crazy time and all they ever hurt was people who kind of sucked anyway. Like I think you kind of have to have the scene where an innocent person is like really like hurt by them to show
Yeah.
that like this behavior is like bad. They're bad for doing this.
Yeah.
It's like weirdly that's what realigns the movie morally for me.
Yeah, it's funny because they actually do way worse things. Like not on a metatextual level, but the characters themselves are way worse in Fear and Loathing. But they're always, they're being horrible, and the
Right.
movie is kind of about that a little bit. And then I was thinking the movie does this interesting thing with both their horribleness and the way it depicts them being high. Is that you're constantly both seeing it from their perspective and also aware of how crazily they're acting. Like somehow you're seeing the crazy visions, but you're also seeing realistic reactions from other people, and then sometimes kind of like either not flashbacks but like descriptions of how they acted. So you're always constantly aware of both what they're seeing and their experience of it, and also how crazy and the other people's experience of it. So it's always grounded what they're doing.
Yeah, you know that they're on some crazy. The movie's very upfront about how many drugs they're on and what they're talking about. Like the scene at the very beginning with Tobey Maguire, I think is a good example of that, where Gilliam like kind of infers like bats. So you get that he's like, oh, he's seeing bats, but then they also cuts to like Tobey Maguire's perspective of like, these guys are insane.
Yeah.
What, I made a mistake.
Yeah. And then there's another really interesting part where it was it was when they're trying to do the check-in for the Mint 500. And it's right, so there's the lizard sequence is really crazy. He's freaking out. And then it cuts to them in the hotel room. And then once they're in the hotel room, Dr. Gonzo describes a bunch of other shit they did after that we cut away from. He's talking about how like you were going nuts. They really just gave us press credentials to get you out of there. And it's interesting that we didn't see that, and that we're told about it, and we're told about the realistic version of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think that, and I mean that's something the movie does really well. Again, just depicting being high is that like there's a lot of scenes where there's like where Duke Thompson Trevor is having a conversation with someone, and there's something that they both know that we didn't see. Like,
Right.
like there's the scene where he's like leaving the hotel room, which they trashed, and he's not going to pay for it. And like the guy keeps trying to be like, "Oh, when are you going to be back? We'd really like to meet you." And like, there's any other movie would do a scene where like, "Oh, we trashed it. We got to get out of here," to like set up what that scene is. But instead, he just gets in the car and goes. I think that's like really true to just like when you've been drinking a lot or when you're just like high. They're just like, it's just like you kind of forget the context for shit, and you just end up having a conversation with someone, and you're like, is there something I don't know that's going to make this conversation treacherous? Or
Right.
at least when you're like really like a bad high, when you're like really paranoid
Yeah.
and shit. It's just like, it's just it's so good at that shit. I don't know. This movie fucking rules.
Yeah. So there's the whole great scene with the waitress coming back into the hotel room. And that's when they like terrorize her, and they just the one hand washes the other I fear nothing line, which is great. But it reminded me of an experience that I had where I was at a fencing tournament one time, and we were going out with some friends, and one of the guys got super drunk, and he like went out to a club or something, and he was like trying to talk to a girl, and he got rejected. So he came back, he's super mad in the hotel room, and he just starts smashing glassware on the ground. And he's just smashing glassware on the ground, and he goes to bed, and his roommate comes back. He's like, what the hell? And he goes, his roommate's already there asleep. And his roommate wakes up to all his glass and blood everywhere because he was stomping around the glass. So he just wraps some towels around his feet to try to just go to the bathroom to take a pee. And then a maid opens the door to the hotel room, just goes, Dios mío, and just closes the door again.
Oh my God.
And that reminded me of what happened in this movie with the maid.
I mean, shit, a good Vegas movie.
Yeah.
Michael, while we have you here,
Yes.
because you're the resident Vegas man,
Yeah.
the man of Vegas, man of the winds. Which of these movies feels more like if you were to say like which of these is a better Vegas movie? Not like which is a better movie about Vegas. Like which one is more Vegas-y or like more
I think
accurately?
that, well, The Hangover.
Yeah?
Like I think it helps that The Hangover is set. At the time that it was released, so like 2011.
2009.
Okay. Well. Okay. Well,
Right?
that's not that far.
Yeah, we're
off,
old as
but
shit. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. 2009. But the fact that it's set in modern day is just it hits like a lot of the bullet points of like what you think of when you think of Vegas and the stuff that you could do in Vegas. It almost acts as a as like an advertisement to go and have fun in Vegas. I even think at the time the ads for Vegas were still in the what happens here, like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So there's very much leaning into like the bro-y like aspects of like, oh, you could have like you can get in trouble but still have fun and like go home and nothing really matters here. Like you know, there are no rules type of thing. I think Vegas now is trying to be more family friendly.
Yeah, because they've really gotten away from that ad campaign specifically and that kind of attitude in general.
Yeah. But
it's kind of like how action movies are now just for children.
But that's part of the reason why I like Vegas is you can kind of find like what you're looking for there. They have a ton of shows if you want to do like see shows. They have you can gamble all your money away if that interests you. You can jump out of a plane. You can ride a race car. Like it's kind of what you make it. So I think the Hangover I think does a better job of that, and just because like and Fear and Loathing it's all set in the 60s, and it was just like a bad bender. Really, they didn't have to be in Vegas. They could have been anyway, like
Detroit.
Because so much of that movie is them in a hotel, in a trashed like hotel room. So that could have happened anywhere. But I think it is fun that it is in Vegas. It adds like that, like an element of danger to it.
You have fun little character types in Vegas. Like then they try and sneak into the show. Is kind of who's the show again? Is it?
It's what's her name? Carrie Fisher's mom.
Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah.
Didn't know she was a Vegas person.
They find a way to like talk themselves into trouble and out of trouble a lot. Like that one, they talk themselves into getting in and then are immediately thrown out without even a camera cut. They're thrown out of the theater.
The whole scene is just one wide shot of them like walking in, trying to convince their way in, and then just walking out again.
Getting thrown out. Them just being like, "This is lame. Let's move on." Yeah.
Did you notice that? So in like maybe in like Act 3 or whatever the movie, when he wakes up in that trash hotel room, he has his tape recorder strapped to his chest.
Yeah, and the microphone on his face.
He has a microphone taped to his face, and
the lizard tail, the thigh highs.
So that's what I was going to say. Did you notice that they were reusing? You started reusing a lot of props by then.
Oh no!
So he has a lizard tail, which is from the lizard costumes.
Oh yeah.
And then you also see the baby from the Flying Walindas act.
Oh.
And then you see, I think there's a couple other props that they reused. I was trying to think like, is that just that they needed more crazy props and they already had all these crazy props that are just using them again? Was it a practical thing, or does that mean anything thematically that we're having all these props in the room?
I mean, to me, just riffing on it because you brought it up and I didn't notice it the first time. I mean, it could just be like these. It's just like that. At this point, he has reached like the end of his bender, basically. Like after that, it's the flashback, and then he drives him it's the flashback to the diner scene, then he drives him to the airport. It's just like that's just the depiction of like everything that they have accumulated, like mentally, everything that they've experienced, like every weird fucking thing that is now burned in their brain for having decided to do that is now like physically like painted onto him.
Yeah, it's like a physical manifestation of what they've experienced and how that kind of stays with them.
Yeah, and also it's very visually interesting because this whole movie is fucking beautiful for being gross and disturbing.
I know. That's Terry Gilliam, man. He's great at that.
Yeah, to me, I felt like that added to the dream aspect of it all, and like the questioning of like the reality of what was it that we saw, how much of that is real, how much of that was, like it forces you to sort of like question like the authenticity of what we were watching earlier, which is when you're trying to think back on like a trip or something, sometimes that happens. We're like, wait, did I do that, or was that something I just imagined when I woke up?
Or even when you think about like your childhood or just memory at all.
Yeah, true.
Because and then even sometimes like you have I have some memories that are just they're stories that I tell, but it happened so long ago and I've told the story so many times that I don't really have the memory anymore. I mostly have the story.
Yeah. You should I forgot to bring it again, the World of Tomorrow Blu-ray, but there is an essay that Don Hertzfeld, a visual essay he did called On Memory, where he talks about that exact thing, that like scientists have basically determined that our memories are basically mostly fake. Like you think of a thing and you turn it into a story you want to tell and you turn it over again, and he tells the frame device there is just a story. He always told people about the uncertainty of memory, and then he realized that he was wrong about certain elements of it.
Yeah.
Like memory doesn't exist really. We don't have persistent selves. We're all just screaming in a void. And I think Fear and Loathing really gets at that. And to me, at least, it's just sort of this thing that happens.
This podcast just going, ah!
We're all just screaming into a void. Just pull the plug. You never see me again. On that note, I think that Heather Graham's very funny in The
She's
Hangover.
the best. I love her.
Just pivoting to something
It's a small
very
role, and
lighthearted.
she's great. I don't know.
I do like that they bring her into the hijinks of
Yes.
like the at the
100%
end to winning all the money back and the Rain Man
Oh, yeah.
sequence.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
And they never really make fun of her.
No.
Yeah.
They make
No.
fun of Stu for being upset about it,
Yeah.
about having married her because she is a prostitute.
Yeah.
But they never, the movie, at least I don't think, ever rips on her for being a sex worker.
Well, there's a funny part where she says, "Oh, I'm a prostitute. Well, I'm also a stripper because that's a great way to meet clients." And Bradley Cooper immediately says, "That's really smart."
I think he's being a little mocking there, but
He
I
is,
do.
but I think it's
Rather
a
fun
little
is-
genuine too. I think.
Yeah.
I want to believe it's a little genuine.
I agree. I think the movie treats her, I think, pretty well. I mean, I haven't seen Hangover 2 or 3, but I remember being very disappointed that she wasn't brought back because, like, I think kind of the sweetest thing in Hangover is that Stu, who, you know,
Oh yeah, he's gonna date her.
yeah, that he actually
Yeah.
kind of likes her and is going to come back. And, like, I think, you know, it's hard to do the whole, like, I have this shrewish girlfriend I, for some reason,
Yeah,
am with.
let's talk about the shrewish girlfriend because that's a trope that we both hate.
Yeah, I
And
don't
in
love
this
it.
movie. It's particularly horrible.
Yeah, I don't love it. I do think that actress, whose name I do not know,
She's
is
really good.
So funny. There's
Yeah.
just some line deliveries that are just like, again, just so over the top that like you don't really have a second to decide you're offended before you're laughing.
Yeah, and I like when she just tells him to suck her dick and
Yeah.
he says no, thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The fact. Yeah. And yeah, Zach Galifianakis coming in to try and date her after the second after they break their engagement.
That was so funny. I will say the one way that she kind of gets around. So the trope we're talking about is that usually in a rom-com, the love interest character will have a horrible significant other that you need them to be in a relationship, but you need them to be in a relationship that you don't feel bad about them ending. And that's exactly what happens in this movie.
Right.
But in this movie, it's kind of nice that it's very overt how horrible she is, and Ed Helms knows about that specifically because she had sex with somebody else, and everybody knows about it, and they
Right.
talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's more about kind of self-delusion, like deliberate self-delusion, rather than
Right.
just being not perceptive.
Also,
Yeah.
she's not in the movie a lot, so I think that's why they need to pour it on thick for when she is, so that you
Yeah.
don't feel bad when he cheats on her, and you don't feel bad when he breaks up with her at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get why the movie's doing what it's doing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it works.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, to make a comparison to another Bradley Cooper movie, I mean, Wedding Crashers is a thing
He was
where
the-
like
yeah.
he is at such an insane asshole level in Wedding Crashers that it hurts the movie because you're looking at Rachel McAdams and you're like, ooh, how this person is so dumb it's so obvious how evil he is.
Right.
Where in this one, it's evil and everyone's telling him he's evil and he sees it, but he's still with her because it's the personal. It's like you
See,
said.
that's
what makes it
that's
work
the
a little
difference.
better.
Yeah, in Wedding Crashers, you're thinking, how does she not understand this? In this one, you know that he empirically does know what's happening, and he's deciding to ignore it.
Right, until, you know, because by broing out with some bros, he learns the power of not staying with a bad woman, which,
Yeah.
I mean, is not, for phrasing it that
also-
way, is a little problematic.
You also need
Medium.
you do need the seeds of them getting into hijinks and him on the phone going like, "No, it's fine, honey. We are too.
We're on a tractor."
We're on a tractor. It's doing
Yeah.
like you need that like that duality in order to sell some of it. You get a lot of mileage out of it, and I think it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, this thing's a joke machine for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for anything that hasn't aged well, and there's plenty in The Hangover.
Oh,
I
it's
mean,
a real mixed bag.
yeah, I mean, and even some of the jokes that are not as funny, just not even in a that's not funny way, but in a I didn't laugh at that kind of
Right.
way. But it is actually not like it is a movie designed to do set pieces and comic set pieces and a million jokes a sec. Like no one gets to have a line of exposition without 4 lines riffing on it in this movie. It's very funny.
Yeah, no, it's great. There's even like, I don't know, I even noticed also because it's funny because it has this intro that's really interesting because it's very kind of dramatic and foreboding. It's kind of Vegas at night. But then while it's having this foreboding intro, it's just a list of all the best comedic actors that were around in 2009. And you're just kind of rubbing your hands like, oh, here we go. This is going to be pretty good.
We got Wriggle.
yeah.
We got Jong.
Dude, even Brody Stevens is that one cop who just calls them the assholes when they're handcuffed together, and then they have a really funny physical bit where they get stuck in the handcuffs together.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, that's just a really funny little piece of physical comedy that you could it's the easiest note to be like, we could just cut that for time, but you want all those little funny jokes. It's great.
Yeah. I know since you mentioned the opening, which I think is very stark and very well directed.
Interesting, yeah.
In general, this is a very well directed movie, The Hangover. I think not as good as Fear and Loathing because
I like Todd Phillips as a director.
I think he's very. I think he has a really good sense of like visuals. I think he's very good at transit. I think he's just incredibly talented. Obviously, and I mean, then he obviously parlay that into Joker, which is a movie I like more than you guys.
I don't really like Joker that much.
Yeah.
The thing is, weirdly, Old School is maybe one of my favorite movies, even though I feel like a lot of people don't think it's aged well, but I guess it was just important to me when I was in high school, so I think about it a lot.
Did you catch the Todd Phillips cameo?
I did in the elevator.
Funny. Yeah.
That was one of my notes, is that Todd Phillips director cameo, and then also in Fear and Loathing, they have the Hunter Thompson cameo, which is another good example of how to do. It's not a director cameo, but it might as well be because it's the writer of the book.
It's also, I think, the funniest moment in the movie because the voice, so it's Johnny Depp as Hunter S. Thompson walking through the crowd, and he says, "So there I was," and then he notices the actual Hunter S. Thompson says, "Mother of God, there I am."
Yeah,
what the fuck is that? He's just like freaking out.
Yeah,
and while Hunter S. Thompson just staring him down. It also speaks. The movie does this weird meta thing that I don't entirely understand. Of he's Duke, but also Thompson,
right?
And they constantly say that
when he's leaving the hotel, he mentions Hunter Thompson because he says the message for all Duke is actually for Hunter Thompson or something.
Right, exactly. He's like, no, actually, for like this movie. The movie plays this game of textually telling you his name is Raoul Duke, but like also kind of subtly telling you he's actually Hunter S. Thompson. Like the movie itself is trying to put one over on you.
I think the book might do that too. And then sometimes I'm not sure. It might be that Raoul Duke was just a pseudonym that he used for the hotel.
Makes sense.
And then but then I think in the book he refers to himself as Raoul. So
interesting dude.
Yeah,
I like his visor and his cigarette holder.
I love Hunter Thompson. He's the best. He's so good. Hell's Angels is a really good book too, if you ever want to check it out. That's actually more journalism than it's less gonzo than his other stuff.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting.
Yeah, I've always wanted to read Fear and Loathing on the campaign trail. I always heard that was very interesting.
I heard that's good.
He's on the McGovern campaign.
Interesting.
A man who is not super well remembered, I suppose.
Yeah.
Take that, George McGovern.
Wow, even that's a slam on
McGovern
old Jimbo
strays.
McGovern.
I mean, shit. The odds of George McGovern being alive and
we can find out the odds of him being alive.
Keep going.
There's not even odds on him.
and B ever hearing this podcast are quite low.
Yeah, be finding out what a podcast is.
The odds are higher that he's dead and that heaven exists, and that's how he's hearing it. That is higher odds than him.
Oh, you're betting hard on heaven existing?
I think it's more likely than the living George McGovern hearing this podcast.
True.
Take that, George McGovern, whoever you are.
Yeah, we don't have the statistics on how, because I have the breakdown of listeners by app. I got like Castos, Overcast. I don't have heaven on there, so we don't know how many people are listening from heaven.
True believers, non-believers.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we just need to be hosted on Christian Mingle instead of Castos.
Yeah.
I briefly mentioned anything more on that? I'm going to pivot.
Eject.
Pivoting. Cool. No one has any more George McGovern takes. I just want to really...
I got a tight 10 on George McGovern.
I think that Zach Galifianakis' look in Hangover with the white pants and the shirt with the moon and stuff on it, it's played for jokes in The Hangover at the time, is now quite stylish.
Yes.
And I think I think if a man wearing that went out in Vegas, we would think, wow, that guy's fucking cool as shit. He must be like famous.
Well, we'd think he's doing a Zach Galifianakis bit. I've been to Vegas and I've seen people trying to get photos, like, one of those people on the street, like, I'll pay me $5 and I'll take a photo with you, and they're that guy.
Oh yeah, just like fat bearded guys. Just wear that
fat bearded guys with
$5 a pop.
Finally, someone wants to pay me for what I look like. But yeah, I mean, those kind of kitschy shirts are really actually kind of popular now.
Yeah, and white pants, bold move in any decade, I think.
Yeah. I think, and also I feel like the glasses, because when I was making the poster for this episode, I noticed that I think the glasses that he has are a direct reference. Actually, they're all wearing the same glasses. I think it's actually a direct reference to Fear and Loathing.
I would believe that,
because he's got kind of tinted aviators, which looks like Fear and Loathing.
Yeah. Well, let's do the highbrow lowbrow of it all. Like, is there a way in which, like, is Hangover in conversation with Fear and Loathing in any like significant way? Is it because we sometimes talk about that, how like the later movie, the lowbrow one, like comes like, I mean, a lost episode reference. How the Suicide Squad is directly kind of riffing on Wild Bunch in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Is Hangover doing anything Fear and Loathing-y, or is it just more just taking the trappings of Vegas to do the funny thing?
I mean, well, they do both deal with lost memory a lot.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think it's directly in reference. I don't think the filmmakers were trying to do a riff or anything directly on Fear and Loathing. I'm sure they were aware and like
They had to be.
I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. They were like of what ground Fear and Loathing was doing, but I don't think that was their goal.
Yeah. I think that's probably the most accurate part.
Yeah. But if we like break it down on a theme level, like they must share. It's like, okay, we're thinking about like what's the theme of Fear and Loathing? It's kind of perception,
memory,
the memory.
I mean the culture war and
the culture, America.
Yeah.
But also kind of our perception and memory of America, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then what are the themes of the Hangover? What is the Hangover about?
Hangover,
really? Like friendship.
Yeah, I would say if you're really reaching for themes in The Hangover, which I do think it's there, it's very much just about male friendship, and specifically male friendship as you're aging out of these kind of hijinks.
That's true.
I think it's sort of like a let bros be bros, but like go back to the family kind of movie.
Yeah, and there's also kind of, I mean, maybe the Wolfpack speech is kind of like a thesis statement for the movie, because it's also kind of about them like accepting your new family.
Yeah.
In this insane person who is his new brother-in-law.
Yeah, because if like men do bond a lot over shared experiences, so that I think that I don't know if it's making a statement about that, but it's definitely in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting too, because if you're talking about men bonding over shared experience, and the key aspect of this movie is that they don't remember any of the shared experience they had.
Right, but
they have more later.
Right.
Right,
like
the whole experience of them trying to figure out the experience they missed out on.
No, I know, but like on a thematic level, I'm thinking that it's about remembering your times with the bros, but it's this black hole of times with the bros that they had that they just know about, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that whole thing about telling the story that you don't remember anymore, but with your friendships, about how someone's like, I don't know.
It's sort of about male rites of passage and like a weird. I mean, I think of the Jeffrey Tambor character, who's like Doug's father-in-law, right?
Yes.
And at the end, where he like comes in late and all beat up, and you think he's gonna be really mad, and he's just like, "It's Vegas, baby!" Like that. Like every generation.
You
of, like,
don't
men,
leave. It was like you don't leave the table when you're on the heater. Like it's one of the first lines he has.
Oh yeah, he's like, remember, you got to fill up the car, so like take care of the tires so they don't get sand damage, and you don't leave the table.
Yeah.
And just kind of felt like maybe that if that's the theme of the movie, just that it's just sort of about how like men are like kind of wild and they become less wild and they settle down, and like that's just sort of a way that they bond and get boring in a good way. I don't know. I'm like, it's a little bit of the knocked up of it all, of like, you know, boys are kind of like crazy and then they like have to grow up. You know, like the Apatow theme, but
although it's, I don't know, they don't necessarily.
I'm very much stretching. I know.
Yeah, I know, because it's such a discrete moment in their lives. Because like Old School is very specifically about, well, it's kind of the reverse of that. It's kind of about how you need to ungrow up sometimes, and then Knocked Up is about how you do need to grow up.
Right.
And then I guess this movie.
This one to me, it's less about growing up and more about like making friends, because like they all know each other through what's his name?
Doug.
Okay, sorry. But like, they all know each other through Doug, but I don't think any of them are really close.
They're not.
Like,
yeah, you're right, because
they become close through this shared experience of this bachelor party, even if it was like a train wreck, and they're trying to put it all back together. And they become friends that way.
Yeah, and at one point, I think maybe it's his wife, where she says, "I don't even know why you're friends with Bradley Cooper, with his character, with Phil." And it is kind of, I mean, it's like the memory thing, where it's like sometimes you have that friend who you've known since you're 6, and you were just, the reason you became friends was because you were neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And eventually, over time, you just are friends so much that you are still friends for the rest of your life. And it's like telling the story so often that you no longer remember it anymore. You just have the story. But with friendship, sometimes you need those moments where you just need to go back and make the friendship again. And you have to remember, like, you have to make a new story because you lost the old story, and you have to make that friendship again because it is still there.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I guess what we're really saying, it's all about friends.
It's all about
friends.
Baby.
It's like it's like, you know, Fast and Furious, all about family, but all about friends.
Yeah.
And also Fast and Furious, it's also really about friends. They're not family.
Only two of them. There's a brother and sister.
Yeah, but they're really just close friends.
Yeah.
It's all about close friends.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel would disagree.
He's banging on the door right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, the odds of Vin Diesel hearing this are higher.
because he's alive.
Right,
And McGovern's probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel could conceivably hear this podcast, whereas George McGovern most likely will not, depending on whether or not heaven exists. What were we talking about?
So I had the question. All right. Does heaven exist? Let's get into it. Mini-sode. No, please no. We're not doing it. I was going to add it. Is Fear and Loathing is highbrow, right?
100%.
Question mark? Okay, because
yeah.
I know visually it's highbrow because Terry Gilliam works in a very highbrow sphere.
Right.
But it is also just about guys partying and being shitheads and all that. It has a lot of lowbrow moments.
Yes.
I mean, given that it's like an adaptation of a novel that was like inventing its own genre, and like I was reading about it, and it was like the biggest thing is many critics say that like the essays in it were like really captured the zeitgeist of what was going on in that transition between the 60s and 70s. Yeah,
but the funny thing is, I think I do agree it's highbrow, but it's funny that it's kind of this, maybe it's quantum brow again, where it's kind of by being lowbrow, because Hunter Thompson, he's rude, he's rude, he's coarse, he's very colloquial, and he's talking about things that people would find in bad taste, and by doing that, he kind of captures the zeitgeist. It's like by doing lowbrow things and documenting it, not accurately, but in the right spirit of it, he achieves something highbrow.
Yeah, it's like making a statement on where the culture is at the time compared to The Hangover, which is a dumb comedy, which is a really fun dumb comedy.
Right.
But I would still say it's a lowbrow.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, to your point.
I don't think there's any argument Hangover is highbrow.
No, I think The Hangover is better than it needs to be. I think because it has those emotional moments.
It does have themes,
right?
Which
and
some movies don't.
Right, and the stuff with Bradley Cooper, like Bradley Cooper having a wife and kids, and going back to that character who is such a weird aggro male, like demon person for so much of the movie. Like the last shot of him is him like holding his like son who's asleep at the wedding.
Yeah, I do love that bit. Like you don't notice him until he stands up and he has to like hoist him over his shoulder.
That was some good acting by that kid, just flopping around. Some good physical acting.
But I do think that we talk about highbrow lowbrow. It's mostly accessibility is like kind of the factor we mostly lean on.
Yeah, I think non-narrative and
right how you're telling the story.
Fear and Loathing has zero narrative.
It does not hold your hand one bit. It doesn't have a narrative. It's making a lot of very metaphorical points. It's not really telling an easy story with a simple moral. But the things it's depicting are like on screen are what things we consider lowbrow things. It's like pointing the camera at lowbrow things. But I think
the characters are lowbrow,
right?
But the movie is not lowbrow,
right? And like there's a long history. I mean, like Shakespeare and Falstaff, and the Confederacy of Dunces, and a book I haven't read but can reference. And
I'm also aware of it, but I've not read it.
It's entirely possible no one has read that book. Anyway,
there is no heaven and nobody's read the Confederacy of Dunces. Those are our takeaways from this episode.
And George McGovern
is dead, and he can suck my dick.
Oh man, I really hope I'm gonna Google George McGovern.
Is that the poll quote? George McGovern's dead, and you can suck my dick.
I hope he's not. I mean, I'm sure he was like. I know he like ran for president, was probably like a senator or something, and I'm sure he was like a fine man. But I really hope I don't Google it and he's like a saint.
He's like 55.
Oh. Right, he ran for president when he was 9.
He's like Doogie Howser.
Oh man, impossible thing to pitch to sell. Baby George McGovern president.
There has been a baby president movie though, right? Wasn't there something where like a 9-year-old? Oh, I mean, Boss Baby.
There's
no,
a book.
But not a president.
There's a book
boss.
called the Kid Who Became President, or the Kid Who Ran for President. That I read as a kid, and I'm sure it's been adapted like a kids movie at some point.
Oh, okay. Damn it.
Kid runs for president, becomes president.
Cool.
And he's like, I don't know, some stuff happens. It's like probably 90 pages. I read it.
90 pages sounds like a lot for that.
but it's in really big font.
Yeah.
It's like one of those like first reading books.
It gets like super deep into like the filibuster or something.
Pivoting to an actual conversation topic that we can talk about.
Yeah, if you want, whatever.
I think something really cool about Fear and Loathing is the casting. I think there's a lot of like very small roles. I wouldn't call them cameos, but there's small roles with big actors. Like Tobey Maguire at this point would have been.
Was that his first role?
No. At Pleasantville's before that.
Oh yeah,
in
October Sky. He was like a kid, right?
Right, and then I
forgot this movie was '98. This movie's. I think of this as an '80s movie.
Right, because I mean it's Gilliam, and because it is about the '70s. But
right,
like I said, it's at the end of his run. I think Tobey Maguire. The four I have are Tobey Maguire, Christina Ricci.
Oh yeah.
Who was a child actress.
That's maybe the creepiest part of the whole thing. But keep on going.
Cameron Diaz in the elevator,
Right.
which is so strange because that character is such a nothing, really.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, one of the she has to be beautiful,
Right.
for that scene, and Cameron Diaz is one of the best looking people in the 90s.
Right. And then
still, we love her.
the best one, and this isn't actually a cameo because this person wasn't famous yet, but Christopher Maloney as the hotel person checking in the cops.
That's the one I was going to say.
That is I already said what was the funniest scene, but that's like the funniest scene in the movie.
It's really good.
Where he just gets, and it's like, also, he's also.
And it's kind of triumphant.
Yeah,
Like,
he's kind of doing a gay stereotype, but also he gets one over. It's like, it captures this thing of like if you're this like shitty establishment person who goes around acting like the world like revolves around him, there's people out there who just by being nice will get further than you and who will fucking like ruin your shit because they're hotel clerks and they can.
yeah, and yeah, when people have their moment to fight back, they will, because you force them to.
Right. And then when Johnny Depp then checks into the hotel right in front of him and his
So-
whole
and the-
family breaks down
and the wife starts
sobbing.
crying.
Amazing. And
So good.
it makes a point about the culture war and about like people and kindness and shit. And Christopher Maloney fucking rules. And like I said, not a cameo, but I do think the movie does cool casting stuff. You want to say something about Christina Ricci?
Oh, I mean, that sequence is maybe almost darker than the waitress with the knife sequence, just because I think she's like a teenager.
Yes.
And they're having the preternatural courtship in the hotel room, and it's really weird. And Hunter Thompson comes in and is just like, "We need to get out of here. This is bad."
Right. He
Yeah.
convinces. I mean, Gonzo says they never like hooked up or anything, and then like Johnny Depp is just like, "We are grown men with like a 15-year-old. We cannot do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like they will get like again the culture war thing. It's like we are the kind of people that the law wants to fuck, and we cannot let it do that. We cannot be caught in a hotel room with these people."
Oh yes. Oh, speaking of the law, their dealings with the law. Gary Busey as the cop, which is funny because it's yet another moment of people being nice and decent to them.
Yeah, he just tells him to go sleep it off, and he's like, I can't do that.
Yeah,
It's
he
like,
tells
no,
him to fuck off.
You need
and then
to
Gary
sleep it
Busey-
off there.
And then he makes out with Gary Busey.
Although I will say, to be fair, I think what's also going on is that scene is he recognizes him as Hunter S. Thompson.
Oh.
Because in that scene, he's, he gets pulled over and the cop's really mad at him until he gives him his ID. And then suddenly he's like, oh, like, and he has this moment of realization. He's like, oh, and he's like, starts suddenly acting all chummy as if he knows him.
Oh,
I think
that's
he even says a
interesting.
line that's like on the border of like, I reckon, oh, it's you or something like that. I read that as him getting out of it because he's Hunter S. Thompson.
I didn't realize. I mean, you're probably right. I didn't even notice that. I just didn't even. It didn't even register to me because throughout the rest of the movie, people are just nice to them constantly.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
I guess because just they're fun and interesting and weird.
And because they're dealing. I mean, in Vegas, it's all service. It's all the service
yeah.
industry. So it's service people trying to do their jobs well.
Yeah.
Right. They would not be able to get away with what they get away with in real life.
And they wouldn't deserve to.
No, and they shouldn't.
They would
They're
just-
awful people.
Scene 2 would be in jail.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be like we were somewhere on the desert when the drugs began to take hold. And then we were pulled over and thrown in jail forever.
Yeah.
This is Fear and Loathing in fucking Rikers.
Fear and Loathing,
Yeah.
Fear and Loathing in Rikers. It's just them making toilet wine the entire time.
I don't know why they would ship them from Las Vegas to New York. Or
yeah.
whatever. Rikers in New York, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm glad I got that right.
You're from New York. How do you
Yeah, I've never visited Rikers Island.
He is not from New York.
I am from New York.
You're from upstate.
New York. Upstate New York is in New York.
Whatever.
Also, I'm not from fucking upstate. I'm from Westchester.
Yeah, it's upstate. It's not Manhattan.
It is quite low state. If this is the whole,
Yeah, there's more upstate.
there's a lot more upstate. It's basically fucking Canada up there, but like the weird part of Canada.
You should still be aware of Rikers.
I know, I am aware of it. I've
okay.
been. I was just like, I was not 100%. I was like 80% on it being in New York. Maybe it was in like Jersey. I don't know. I know it's like, I know it's like in the tri-state area.
You learned
Rikers
something
just is
today.
New Jersey.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's like a penal colony, like Australia.
Yeah, it's Australia.
Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. I don't know. Johnny Depp.
Oh, how they couldn't do any of that stuff now.
Oh yeah, and they should
Yeah.
go to jail. They're bad
I made the note. It was like, did the 60s or whenever this movie is set, did they not have security in Las Vegas at all? Because they should be like kicked out of their hotel and told to go sober up and go home.
I mean-
at the very least.
Like,
Yeah.
immediately.
Immediately. Go to jail after all the knives and the guns come out too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's kind of commentary on 60s politeness and like
That's
kind
true.
of the respectability and how that was how I don't know, acting properly and respectability was there was more of a premium on that.
And
Yeah.
also I think the culture hadn't been as like flattened as like corporatized. Like I think Vegas was genuinely more of like a Wild West.
That is true.
And like the 70s, like it was just was this thing like discrete pockets of America were still discrete. We weren't a monoculture in like 1971.
And it was like just recently not mobbed up. Like
right. I mean, it was still pretty
maybe
mobbed
still
up.
pretty mobbed up.
Right. I mean, I assume it's still mobbed up to some degree at this point.
I imagine so.
I don't know. What are the mob? I feel like I haven't heard about the mob in a while. Like, I'm just taking my jacket. You don't need to stare at that. It's a little
That's a
warm in
good.
here.
No, do it
That's
a little
good
slower.
Okay. I can't. It's already off.
Put it back on.
I don't want to. It's hot.
I wasn't going to comment on this until
were
you did.
staring
You
at
made
me.
this happen.
You made it weird.
Since
I
we're
was- I'm
talking
thinking,
about
yeah.
our wardrobe, I like your My Pleasure shirt.
Oh yeah, this
That was from one
that
of our
a-
evenings.
a
of
Jackbox game.
Jackbox, yeah.
I bought it.
That was pretty funny.
I have one too. I didn't wear it.
It's not a contest, Josh.
You make it feel like it is. Anyway.
Talking about visual stuff on a podcast, I think we finally hit like all of the podcast
Like
classic
don'ts.
bits, which is talking about visual bits, talking before the intro.
Has anyone heard from the mob recently? I feel like the mob was in the news a lot, and like mob movies.
When
and
was the
TV
mob in the news recently?
Not recently. I'm saying they're not. Like what happened to the mob? Are they still like you never
I
hear?
imagine they exist.
Like you never see a news story that's like, oh, these mob people got caught. Do they just not get caught anymore? I don't know. Like I watch The Sopranos, and
Well,
whenever
now
any of them do anything, it's always like local news being like, this mob guy was caught today. And whereas like I don't know, I feel like at some point that would happen, right?
Yeah.
Is the mob not a problem? Did we beat the mob and no one talk about it?
I don't
Or
think
did the
it's.
mob
I
beat
don't
us?
think it's as much of a problem as it used to be, at least compared to like the 70s.
Yeah, true.
Maybe they're all working overtime underground and being super secretive, and that's why we
yeah.
don't hear of them.
I
But
just realized it was more lucrative to just like own a business that like is bad to their workers.
yeah,
And like post huge margins.
yeah.
If you're in the mob, please write to us at hblbpodcast@gmail.com.
Leave us a 5-star review and let us know what's up with the mob.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any reviews yet. I keep doing that bit, but I feel like I'm doing it late in the podcast and people aren't listening. We got to start it out with just like give us a 5. Why don't they say rate reviews describe at the beginning of the podcast?
I think maybe you have to give them something first. You have to give them something in exchange. You can't just ask for favors.
Yeah, what would they be rating, reviewing, or subscribing to?
The podcast.
The intro song?
If you like that song,
Yeah.
every time we make a good joke, or we just say, give us a review.
RRS, rate, review, subscribe.
Yeah. So one interesting thing is that I'm pretty sure Johnny Depp and Hunter Thompson actually became real life friends as a result of this movie. Like, I know Hunter Thompson is in that one scene, but I'm
Yeah.
guessing he was also just around on set
Yeah,
to
as
consult.
much as he wanted to. I see.
But yeah, Johnny Depp actually organized his funeral.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
Johnny
weird.
Depp was the one that paid for it, and as I recall, maybe I'm wrong, but I remember he kind of was the one that organized the funeral where they shot his ashes out of a cannon into a mountainside in Nevada.
And they also
That's fucking
did.
great.
He did the other Hunter S. Thompson movie.
Rum
Rum
Diaries.
Diary.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you seen Rum Diary?
Yes.
Not-
Is
Oh.
it? How is it?
I remember liking it, but not anywhere near what Fear and Loathing is.
That makes. I kind of want to see it just because I like Hunter Thompson so much, and it's more Hunter Thompson.
Yeah, I don't really want to speak at length because it's been 10 years since I saw it. It was actually at a screening with Johnny Depp, and he did speak about his friendship with Hunter S. Thompson and his all of that. But I don't really recall the movie all that well.
Yeah. But yeah, Hunter Thompson has one of the best bits. Did one of the best bits of all time, which is that in his will he requests that his ashes be shot out of a cannon, and it was a cannon that was shaped like that logo of his, which is the two thumbed fist with the peyote bud in it. And the middle part of the peyote bud was a cannon that shot his ashes into a mountainside. And you know, it's
Pretty
rare,
badass.
It's
Yeah, that's a
rare
way
that
to
you
go.
see someone do a killer bit from the grave.
Death, yeah.
I wonder how many people have like requested stuff like that, but they can't do it because they're not friends with Johnny Depp.
Right. You
know.
need like resources
Yeah.
and like clout.
And,
Yeah.
and,
Depp
and
has.
friends who will put up with you doing errands for you after you have died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you need to like find like a vendor to make a custom built cannon. I mean, that cannot be easy to find.
The real trick is that you got to start that stuff while you're alive. You got to
Right.
set. You
It's
got to
gotta be ready to
set
go.
aside the money.
You do the work.
Yeah, you got to set aside the money. Make the cannon.
And that's just a bummer, planning your own funeral.
You can make it fun
I would think it's a bummer.
Yeah, especially
if you're doing bits.
I mean, well, if you don't think you're going to die soon, then it's like, well, like, you know, like if we did it now, I don't think I'm going to die soon. But if you're like dying and don't have much left, you should probably focus on like spending time with your loved ones instead of doing great bits.
You're right. We should start planning our funerals right now.
That was your takeaway?
Yeah.
Speaking of, unless anyone has anything else they want to say about Johnny Depp and Hunter S. Thompson, I do think it's kind of cool that they know each other and we're kind of kindred spirits.
Yeah.
And I think Johnny Depp is fantastic.
I mean, he does
in
a
this
great
movie.
one of his. I mean, he's got a lot of good performances.
Yeah.
But maybe one of his best.
I'd probably rank it top 3. Oh man, I don't know. Ed Wood's fucking great.
Yeah.
I mean, Pirates is great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Jack Sparrow in this performance.
Oh, I think
Actually, yeah.
I will 100%.
Not in a bad way. It's just
No.
I was like, oh yeah, I noticed that because Pirates is maybe my favorite movie. It's definitely up there, and so I've seen it many times. And watching him stagger drunkenly was like, oh, I've seen that before.
Yeah. It also it made me think of the scene in Wolf of Wall Street when he's trying to get into that Countach. Just great.
When he's on Quaaludes.
yeah, just great.
DiCaprio, not Depp.
Not Depp. No. Depp. DiCaprio trying to get things. Just great physical acting of people trying to get somewhere, being really funny.
The
Yeah.
scene where he's describing being on ether and walking
Yes.
into the carnival
Which is very similar to
great.
that scene from Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah, it must have been. I'm not saying it must have been a point of reference for Leo and Scorsese. I mean, Scorsese would have seen it, but like it must have been like in their brain somewhere if they've seen this movie. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like it's so great.
That is the funny thing about the way he describes ether is that he's talking about how I don't know it's probably not actually true, but how your brain is lucid, but you're watching your body do this crazy stuff, which is just such a funny idea of watching these guys who have been out of their heads for the whole movie, and the one time they're clear-headed, they cannot move their bodies.
Also, I can say about the Fear and Loathing. We talked about The Hangover being a joke machine. Fear and Loathing has a lot of just one-off throwaway lines and commentary and stuff that are really, really funny.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, let's get down to brass tacks. How much for the ape?
Yes.
Is when he's trying to buy a monkey on a carousel is because it just comes out of nowhere. They're not talking about the monkey. It's just there.
And then the story of how the monkey started just biting people and terrorizing everybody immediately afterwards.
Or like the whole bit where Benicio Dr. Gonzo is freaking out on the floor for no reason, and then when he's done, he just goes, "Well, that's that."
Yeah. Oh, and then yeah. And then actually, Dr. Gonzo has a moment where he, as a character, is being funny, which is when he starts spazzing out in the convertible, asking for his medicine, but
Yeah.
he's just asking Hunter to give him more drugs.
Yeah.
because he's just doing a bit for the benefit of the hitchhiker, or kind of like for Hunter Thompson's benefit to like freak out the hitchhiker, but like he knows what he's doing in that moment. He just found a funny way to ask for more drugs.
I just speaking of that, like that is kind of a theme of the movie, just how strange Gonzo is. I mean, there's that speech at the end. You know, he's too weird
to
to
live, too rare to die.
right? Which is it kind of the whole movie. Like we talked about, Palm Springs has this great theme of the weird people you meet at weddings,
Right.
And this kind of felt like just the weird people you see in Vegas.
Yeah.
And like I guess they're not as weird by the time. Hangover has a little bit of that energy. But by the time Hangover rolls around, Vegas maybe is not as fucking terrifying.
I mean, they meet a lot of weird
It's
people.
way more commercialized.
They meet
Yeah.
Mike Tyson, who is a weird guy. That's crazy. I mean, we should probably talk about Mike Tyson being in that movie, right?
Yeah, I mean, our greatest boxer ever, maybe. I don't know. He's fucking
crazy. It's crazy that
Heavyweight champ, Iron Mike.
When Ed Helms gets Zach Galifianakis gets punched by him, that he
Yeah.
doesn't die.
Right. I mean, yeah, and then they love their comedies. Like he's still like I like that they're very enamored of Mike Tyson.
Yeah, when he says he's still got it.
Right. Like they know they should be scared because there's like a hitman who's threatening to kill them and they have to get a tiger, but they're just like, oh man, it's Mike Tyson. I mean that's kind of all I got to say on that. I mean, both good movies. I think highbrow, lowbrow of it. Fear and Loathing is about a lot of really cool, interesting stuff, and Hangover is about some smaller stuff, but mostly very funny.
I think we discovered some interesting things about The Hangover
Oh, I agree with that.
thematically.
Yeah, we kind of
about
talked through it.
friendship and
Yeah. I mean, I think I weirdly think they're both very good. They both use Vegas well.
yeah.
Like Fear and Loathing being like it's this like canvas on which they're gonna be weird, and Hangover is like it's this den of like debauchery that they can kind of like stop in and leave.
Yeah, well, I guess that's kind of the beauty of Vegas is that it's this artificial. I mean, all cities are man-made, but
This one is especially
like made in a lab for fun in a
Right.
way that no other city is. So you can kind of make whatever you want out of it, like what you said earlier about how you can find what you want in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And these are people who are doing that to the utmost extreme of finding what they want in Vegas, including friendship.
yeah.
So we can pivot to the game we play at the end of the game. Before we do that, I have a very important discovery. I was sitting at I was watching.
Is it about George McGovern? Is he alive?
Oh shit!
Is he coming for us?
Is he outside?
It's not about George McGovern.
Okay.
I was watching a commercial for something, and I saw that it was an ad for a TV show, but I didn't know what it was. But I saw Corey Stoll was on it. I was like, "Oh, Corey Stoll.
Yeah.
Where's Corey Stoll been?
I know what the
Where's
answer
Corey
is.
Stoll been this whole time?" And then it cuts, and it's fucking Giamatti on the other side, and it's Billions.
Yep.
Corey Stoll. We lost Corey Stoll to Billions.
Yep.
We didn't even know.
Billions is this gaping maw that is sucking up our great actors.
Our great character actors are being stolen by Billions, and they got Corey Stoll without me even under my fucking nose.
Yeah.
And I don't have a broader point to make.
We don't need a broader point.
So the game.
If we made a broader point, it would get cast in Billions.
Like, damn, their casting department is so quick. So we, Michael, I don't know if you've ever listened to the very end of one of our podcasts, but
I have, yes.
that's good. So we play a game.
play a game, yeah.
Play a game.
I'm aware.
Okay, good. It's tough. Our analytics say no one has listened to the end of a podcast.
I think it might be that not enough people for the analytics to register it have seen the end, which I initially interpreted as nobody has made it to the end of a podcast.
I'm the lone soul
Yeah.
that's going to be listening to this part of it. I'm listening to myself alone right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've having listened to this in the car to like check the levels. It feels really weird and like onanistic to be listening to yourself talk in your car.
I did it a lot when we first launched because I was like worried I'd like find like weird things that like fucked up.
Yeah, I still find weird things we fuck up every once in a while. It's mostly levels, mostly mixing stuff.
Yeah, but it's like the Mitch Hedberg joke of like, yeah, you can swear on satellite TV because no one can hear you. You can swear in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's sort of how I feel.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel comfortable savaging George McGovern whenever I want.
He's going to be coming for you.
Yeah.
If he is, that would be incredible.
I'd like to see him try.
That would make my fucking life. Murdered by George McGovern in 2022.
I heard what you said.
What a way to die.
Yeah. So, enemies of the show: Zendaya, Billions, George McGovern.
A real.
Billions is like an enemy? You're just kind of like saying
We
that it
complain about
exists.
Billions a lot on this show.
I want to make this clear because I think I'm a drama writer who one day would love to work for a show as good as Billions.
Yeah, what
And
if the one you get an interview to be a writer and it's on Billions? They're like, so do you have any like other projects you could show us? And you're like, I can't tell them about their podcast.
No.
I do not. End of next question.
Yeah, they're like, well, I don't know if I feel like if you maybe made more content, we could hire you. But you're like, oh.
I just don't watch Billions, and there's a lot of actors I like on it, and that's a problem. As someone who likes to see those actors,
maybe you should just watch Billions.
Yeah, that's the solution.
Yeah.
Fuck. What if I watch Billions and I just fucking love it, and I just go on the show?
It
like,
seems to have all of your favorite actors.
Yeah.
So this is very possible.
Yeah, this might be one of those things like it's like in the playground or like the girl that you're teasing a lot is because you like her.
So I found a list. So the game we play,
And we're both guessing, right?
right? I'm
Okay.
gonna try and like keep score. I think that might be fun.
Okay.
Nice.
It's not a super long list. It is Rolling Stone's 10 best movie drug trips.
Okay.
So
the trip, not the movie.
right. So I will say some of these. One of these you're not going to get. I'm just going to tell you what it is because there's no way anyone's heard of that fucking movie. One of them they don't list a specific scene. I'll bring this up as it goes on.
Okay.
So I'm thinking if you get the movie, that's a point. If you get the scene, that's a point.
Okay.
And we'll just kind of see how this goes. And for the listeners at home, I found a list. I'm going to try and make them guess a movie.
Yeah.
So the first one is a Disney movie. It is classic Disney, as in like while Disney was alive.
Alice in Wonderland.
That is the next one on the list that I was not doing, but yes, that is it. That is on there. So that's a point for Michael.
shit.
But what scene is it?
It's the flowers.
It is not.
No, fuck. Oh, wait, are we talking about the first one or Alice in Wonderland?
Sorry, we're doing Alice in Wonderland, like the animated Disney.
Okay, so then it's...
And
is it with the caterpillar?
It is not the caterpillar. I was surprised they picked the scene because I don't think the scene is visually interesting.
movie is this?
I know. Okay,
Talk
so
about
it's early in the movie.
Completely a drug trip.
Oh, is it the Drink Me, Eat Me?
It is Drink Me. Eat Me.
Oh, okay.
So it's tied up. Yeah, it's so weird that's the
That's before the trip.
Yeah,
right.
That's her doing the
That's
drugs.
just getting big and small.
Yeah.
Things get big and small in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Sure.
yeah, not quite. God damn it.
Let's move on.
I'm feeling silly. We got to get out of here.
No. What? Give us your type 5 on things being big and small.
Some things are big. Some things are small. Some movies are highbrow.
He's
some
big
movies are
if true.
lowbrow.
He's fucking brilliant. Yeah, big if true, small if it can do that.
Small if not.
Okay, so that's Alice in Wonderland. But the other Disney movie I was talking about, same era of Disney, Also has been turned into a live action movie. It is about all the main characters are animals. And it is some of these characters are pretty horrible racial stereotypes who have not aged well.
Dumbo.
Yes. And
It's when he gets drunk.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that one's easy. That's two more for Cooper. Good job, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pink elephant's on parade.
Right.
Here's the scene. So the next movie is
He does get drunk. Is he him
He
getting
gets drunk,
right?
which
it's
funny.
interesting that again, it's like the example of people having the wrong drug reaction in a movie is because getting drunk doesn't make you see things
right.
that I'm aware of.
Maybe it does that to elephants.
Yeah, actually, it's true. I don't know what it's like to be an elephant.
Yeah, how do they metabolize alcohol?
If you know, leave us a 5-star review
Yeah.
and let us know in the review.
Yeah, but weirdly, if they do acid, they just like stumble around, call their ex-girlfriends. This is dumb. I'm getting out of
We're
this.
moving up.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys.
We'll bleep it out.
Yeah.
The next one, this is the one you're not going to get. It's a movie called The Trip. It came out in 1967. It stars Peter Fonda. You've never heard of this
Oh,
movie.
wait. Can I try like an out of nowhere guess?
Sure.
that I don't think it's going to be right.
Sure.
Okay, in the movie The Bear, the
No.
bear eats a mushroom and has a trip. Okay.
It's not on there.
Yeah.
That
cool.
would have been fucking wild, though.
That's a movie that's just about a bear.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say, one of these is Fear and Loathing.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's got to be the lizards, right?
It's the lizards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes
okay.
the most sense.
Yeah, okay. Should I give you a point for that? Doesn't
Nah.
matter. Cool.
No, because we didn't set that up as us guessing.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, the next one is a movie came out in the 60s. It's a very very influential movie directed by an actor. Really like about the 60s and the counterculture, and it's a road trip movie.
Oh.
Is it
And-
Nashville?
No,
It's
no,
not
no.
Nashville.
It's oh my god, damn it.
It's one of the
Easy
actors.
Rider.
It is Easy Rider.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one for Cooper. And also they don't
When do they do drugs in Easy Rider?
So
in the graveyard.
they don't actually list a scene.
But it's in the graveyard.
They just say they did a lot of drugs in this movie. I've never seen Easy Rider.
I think. Have you seen Easy Rider? Oh, I think
No.
They do acid in a graveyard in New Orleans. I think.
Well, it feels like that. Well, how do they? Is it like the trippiness, or is it just them kind of like? How do they depict
I
it?
think they have some kind of like double exposure stuff, and they have like a lot of kind of trippy editing.
Yeah.
Of like cutting between a lot of different like weird imagery.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's not quite as heightened as Fear and Loathing, where you're, having prosthetics
Lizards
and
and-
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
The next movie,
That's a good movie.
I have not seen. It is like explicitly about a guy who does a lot of weird drugs. And
Enter the Void.
no, it came out in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. Directed by Ken Russell. I mean, this would be tough. Written by Patty Chayefsky. It's like very much known as like this is a trippy movie.
Okay.
The title of the movie is
or more stuff that happens in the movie.
I mean, all I know
Okay,
is the whole movie is him just like visualizing weird shit. And I think William Hurt is the star, maybe. Yeah, I looked it up. Anyway, the title is a word for like being fucked up.
What? Oh, is it? No, I'm not gonna know.
All right,
I got nothing.
Altered States.
Oh, I've heard that title. I don't.
Yeah,
I've never seen
I
it.
thought
Yeah.
I'm glad we just moved on from that
Yeah.
real quick. Yeah, he does peyote or something.
Okay.
Like see some shit.
Cool.
The next one, a comedy, came out the same year as Fear and Loathing.
Naked Lunch.
No, Naked Lunch came out a little earlier.
Yeah.
It is a big stoner comedy. It's like a
Wait,
very, very
98?
talented writer director who doing a very funny thing. Who's often they kind of switch between being funny and being dramatic.
Stoner comedy in '98 with a writer director.
Writer directors.
Writer director. Oh, it's the Coens.
It's the Coens, so it's one of their comedies.
Oh.
Oh, it's not. It's not Raising Arizona. It's
not Raising
'cause
Arizona.
They have dream sequences, but they're not
Yeah.
tripping. Which Coen Brothers movie has them doing drugs? Is in '98?
You're trying to think of them doing like acid, but this is not this character doing acid. This character does not really do any acid in this movie. That I
Oh,
would
he's just like
imagine.
daydreaming.
Yeah, or if I remember correctly, he either gets drugged at this point or he gets like knocked out.
All right, Michael, let's just work together on this one.
I'll give you more.
Let's start naming Coen. Okay.
Okay, more hits. Huge cast, a lot of very quotable lines.
It's the dude. It's
It's
Big
the dude. It's
Lebowski.
Big Lebowski.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
In the bowling
Yeah.
dream.
Now
Yeah.
I feel silly for not knowing that.
Yeah, well, it's tough.
Does he get? Is it when he gets knocked out by the nihilist?
I think so. Yeah. Or I think he's like high, and then they hit him, and then he does it.
Yeah, well, he's high in the entire.
Yeah, he's not
movie.
the entire movie. That's really just narrowed down. But also, it's kind of a movie about the counterculture and like he's like a burnout hippie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of like an aging hippie.
Yeah. These next, I'm gonna try and go through these next ones pretty quick. This is a very dumb comedy. by a writer-director who has made a
is
lot
it
of
Pineapple
comedies.
Express?
No, this movie's dumber. It is a solo movie for some characters who have appeared in other movies.
Oh, it's Jane Silent Bob?
It is Jane Silent Bob.
Strike
Strike
Back?
Back.
I've actually never seen that. I've seen like the opening. I
Yeah.
love Clerks.
Yeah.
I actually like Clerks 2 a lot, even though that one
I
has
very
probably aged less well.
I don't really like Clerks 2 at all, but I really like Kevin Smith. I think Kevin Smith's run from Clerks to Jane Silent Bob is pretty great.
Yeah. I'm scared to watch Clerks 2 again. And that was a movie I really liked in college, and I think a lot of the individual bits are funny. Like him making fun of Lord of the Rings is really funny. The line, everything is that movie's only walking, even the trees walked in that movie is really funny. I don't know.
Can you name a specific scene in Jane Silent Bob?
I haven't seen
I
it.
did not
I
remember
haven't
this.
seen it either.
Yeah, apparently there's a scene where they're like hallucinating and they like run into like the Scooby gang, like the Scooby Doo people.
That's pretty funny.
I do not remember that scene. All I remember from that movie is they have a monkey. And the monkey gets stolen by a car that says Critter of Hollywood. And Silent Bob sees the sign, and Jay does not. And Silent Bob is trying to pantomime
That's
Critters
very
of
funny.
Hollywood. And then that's his one line. He screams into his face.
That's pretty funny. Scooby Doo is kind of an interesting 60s counterculture, like, because they're in a VW bus.
That's true.
Shaggy's a hippie.
But Fred is very much not.
Fred's, yeah, and then Daphne is kind of she's like a she's
like the golden girl.
Yeah,
Like,
but she is kind of stylish in a 60s way. She's
Right.
kind of like new.
Like a mod girl or whatever.
Yeah, she's
well,
kind of mod
The original cartoon was like totally
in the 60s, yeah.
Yeah.
But they are like going around in a VW bus. Like there's stuff in the 60s that doesn't have hippies in it like that, right?
Yeah, I mean the bus. It is interesting that the bus
Shaggy.
is such a Shaggy. I think
Shaggy's coded as being high all the time.
I don't. I mean, I think we see that
Hothead.
now.
Yeah, but I think
mean, they eat a lot.
I
that
think
was
at
deliberate.
the time
But I feel
they
like-
were aware.
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, there is also. I mean, this is the old trope, of just a character who eats a lot, like Jughead was from like the 40s, and that's his like.
But
Shaggy's just Jughead.
I think Shaggy is coded as being a stoner. Like the way he dresses.
Yeah.
he in a shirt and slacks.
And a long,
Yeah.
and his
Stoners wear shirt and slacks.
shaggy stoner hair.
All right, he does have a mop. He just I think it's fair, but I disagree somewhat. But let's save this for the Scooby Doo episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a highbrow a bunch of people go around solving mysteries movie?
Yeah. I don't know.
Knives Out?
Murder on the Orient. Yeah, Knives Out.
Knives Out.
Knives
Knives
Out
Out
versus the
Scooby-
live action Scooby-Doo. Oh my God. That
That's
actually
actually
might be good.
That is interesting.
That's wow. Yeah, it's just
Or
mysteries.
Clue.
Yeah,
Clue would be a good lowbrow. Maybe.
yeah, but we're trying to work backwards from Scooby.
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Well,
you're
is
just
there-
gonna cut out Scooby from your
Yeah, shit.
Scooby episode.
Yeah, okay. Well, because like I think Clue. Yeah. I think Clue would work. Oh yeah, okay. I don't know. We'll work on it. I'm sorry.
This next one, a comedy I think we've all seen. I will say the character in this movie who is like tripping balls. You don't, from what I recall, you don't see like a lot from his perspective, if any. It's just he's tripping balls in it. It is a comedy troupe with the name.
Oh, it's from Broken Lizard.
It is.
Oh, it's Super Troopers. It's in the beginning when the snozzberries taste like snozzberries in the cop car.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, you know that guy. He
married Christina Hendricks.
Yeah, Joan from Mad Men.
And then he got divorced.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Love isn't real.
Fuck. Yeah, that makes me sad.
I know.
Bummer.
Yeah.
Last one.
He's so funny in that.
I've stopped keeping score. Cooper, just run away with it.
Yeah, no,
that's fine.
I don't know.
To be fair, I've been training
training.
at this
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
12 episodes.
Yeah. All right. Last one.
I got Alice in Wonderland, so
You do
That's
get Alice in
true.
I'm
Wonderland.
happy about that.
There's a comedy from the 2000s that I'm trying to like give it away, but like this scene the scene takes place in Vegas.
It's knocked up when
It
they go to
is.
Vegas and they're going to search Slay.
Yeah,
I didn't
they
even have a
should.
shot at that one.
That was crazy.
You got that off of a movie from the 2000s that has a scene in Vegas. I had no chance.
I really like that. I think that's also
really funny.
It's also an example of like what drugs are not like, because he just takes like shrooms and he just sees a giant baby saying like, you need
Well,
to take
no,
care
it's
of me.
because they're at a Cirque du Soleil show. Cirque du Soleil
Right,
show.
that is
That is
crazy.
part of the show because Cirque du Soleil is just weird and trippy.
But I think the baby is specifically like him doing the thing of like, oh, when you're tripping, you're like faced with the like physical
like
construction of your
subconscious-
fears.
your
Oh,
subconscious
I thought they just
thought there was
happened
a
to go
giant
to a
baby
Cirque du
circle?
Soleil show that had a giant baby because that's something that
Very
could
possible.
be a Cirque du Soleil
maybe.
show.
Yeah, very possible.
I have never seen a Cirque du Soleil. I do think a giant
pretty
baby
crazy.
just sitting there. But
I
think-
saw one in Vegas. It was great.
Yeah, giant
they're
baby.
really
It
good.
was
Oh,
love.
which one?
Love.
Oh, the Beatles one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd
was
be
good.
good.
I would like to see more. But,
Remember
you know,
Zumanity?
Corona.
Wait, was Zumanity the sexy one?
I do not.
Remember the sexy
Stop
one?
asking
There's
I
like
can't remember. Like, I don't know. I know there's a Michael Jackson one I really want to see.
Yeah.
That might not.
That
be
wasn't the sexy
I
one.
think that one is not running anymore.
No. And then O was on. O was like the
yeah.
show to see in Vegas, maybe
For a
throughout all
long
our
time.
childhoods.
Yeah.
O was like the Cats of Vegas, where it was just on for like 20 years.
Yeah, all I've seen, I only saw Love, and I really enjoyed it, and I
Yeah.
would love to see another one.
I'm trying to think of it. Whatever. There was one where it was like Cirque du Soleil, but they had like boobies in it. It was weird. Anyway, yeah, that's
yeah.
it. Eject.
Yeah, shit, man. I don't know anything about Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
It seems kind of. I mean, it looked crazy from Knocked Up.
It's really good.
Yeah, Knocked Up, another movie about just like I guess men going to Vegas and it being like, oh, I need to go back to be a good person.
It's funny because they kind of just go to Vegas in the middle. It's him and Paul Rudd, right? Because
Yes.
Paul Rudd's really unhappy with his family.
Right, and well, I mean that's the whole movie is just basically about Judd Apatow, like him, because like Paul Rudd in that movie is Judd Apatow, like like when his kids were that age, and
Which is
then-
interesting because doesn't
Those are
he
his
have
kids.
Judd Apatow's kids?
Right, and
Yeah.
his wife, yes,
Yeah.
then-
And his wife.
and Seth Rogen is because Knocked Up is like very autobiographical.
Yeah.
and like Seth Rogen and as Leslie Mann was basically Katherine Heigl in that. So like that scene is
she actually did get pregnant. Oh,
Yeah, I
that's
think
very
so.
interesting.
And so I think,
love
or
Leslie
maybe
Mann.
it was like earlier than they thought. It was something he's talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up. He's a smart man. He talks well, I think. So what's interesting about that movie is, I mean, it's Judd Apatow going on a trip to Vegas with Judd Apatow and doing shrooms to deal with his shit, which he's gone through different points of his life. I think it's kind of neat.
It's kind of like Hunter Thompson pointing to himself in the movie.
Right. It's highbrow, is what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Debate episode, Knocked Up.
I think I know we'll come down
like
on that one.
immediately. We're like, this movie just mostly just a bunch of dudes in the house.
It's gonna be a
talking shit.
30-second trailer.
Yeah, just like, oh, welcome to Highbrow Lowbrow. It's lowbrow. We'll see you later.
All right, bye.
Yeah, you could do some recs. Get out of here. I feel like we're getting pretty silly.
Yeah, my rec is Eyes Without a Face. I forget the director.
George Franju.
Yeah, it's really good. 58. Is it like
Late 50s,
late
early
50s?
60s.
Yeah, late 50s, early 60s French horror movie. It's about a doctor who's trying to find a face for his daughter who's missing a face, and he's killing people and stealing their faces.
That
and
sounds
it's
crazy.
pretty crazy. It's really good.
That sounds cool.
I will
Great
say,
movie.
yeah, I think it is it's in French, it's in black and white, it's from the 60s. I think that's a lot for a lot of people to get over, but if you can get through that, it's really good. It's really interesting and genuinely creepy and some beautiful production design.
I'm into it. That sounds great.
Yeah. Do you have a rec?
My rec is kind of on theme. Since you told me like 5 minutes before we went on this that I should have a rec, I thought of the movie Viva Las Vegas, the Elvis Presley movie. It's a lot of fun if you're looking for something in the same theme of Las Vegas. Like these two movies, I would recommend that one. It's also that one was actually made in like the 60s. It's kind of an advertisement for what Las Vegas was at a time. It's very silly, pretty goofy, but a whole lot of fun. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, Elvis was so just raw likability and talent.
Yeah.
I think I've saw
And he was like
Jailhouse
so
Rock.
much of what, like he's also part of the like Vegas zeitgeist
yeah.
even today.
He's like the fabric
even
of Vegas.
Still, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Has there been a good? Sorry. So Viva Las Vegas. That's about Elvis, or it's like it's an Elvis
Elvis
movie?
Elvis is
movie.
in it, and it's just like one of his rom-coms where
Yeah.
he finds a girl. Like he's a race car driver who finds a girl, and he's also the most talented singer and dancer in the world.
'cause
But
he's
they don't
Elvis,
really
yeah.
acknowledge that, and
Yeah.
it's a musical kind of. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
That's great. Yeah. I feel like that. Has there been a good movie about Elvis? I know
Bye Bye Birdie.
Carpenter. I haven't seen Bye Bye Birdie. Is that about Elvis?
It's coded as Elvis.
Oh, interesting.
It's about Elvis getting drafted, right?
I am
I've
not
not seen Bye Bye
unaware.
Birdie. All I know
So
about Bye Bye Birdie is
in-
Mad Men.
In Bye Bye Birdie, Birdie is basically a like a parody of Elvis.
Oh, interesting. My rec is I mean, I'll make a weird thing, but the Criterion Channel, the streaming service.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah. We've done books. We've done artists. We've done podcasts. We've never just done a streaming service. I'm going to switch mine to the Roku channel.
I'm switching mine to the concept of literacy.
I'm going to change mine to feelings. Yeah.
Books,
Love,
read them.
Yeah.
love, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. I like that.
Love has the same slogan as Nike.
No, Nike
Love.
is just do it.
Just do
Oh,
it.
so just do it.
Yeah, it's not just.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
Get it right.
I'm sorry. I want shirts that say "love, comma, do it."
Man, I don't know. You're wearing a custom shirt right now. I'm sure you can make that happen.
Yeah.
We just
I got a guy,
Jackbox.
and the guy's a website.
Yeah. So Criterion Channel is a streaming service run by the Criterion Collection, which, I mean, if you're listening to this, you probably know what it is. It's a
You're a nerd.
Shut up. It's a company that just releases cool Blu-rays with like special features of like cool movies, but like mostly like independent movies, foreign films, things that may not otherwise have a good DVD or Blu-ray like release of them. So they do a lot of restorations and transfers and things like that. And the Criterion Channel is their own service. I think it's a really good way of, you know, their permanent collection is like all the classic. I mean, they've got Eyes Without a Face. They've got, I mean, all of Fellini, all of Kurosawa. They've got like all the guys, all the girls. They do a whole thing of that too. Anyway,
And it's very curated, which I like.
that was my next point. Is that it's whereas you know all the other streaming services now are like algorithm to send you down rabbit holes. Criterion Channel is curated by their people, and like the collections that they promote are constant across everything. So it's very good about discovering new types of movies you might not have seen. And they push a lot of short films and experimental films, a lot of filmmakers who you may not have even heard of, a lot of women filmmakers, a lot of filmmakers of color. They've made some very good collections there. And in general, I just think it's important to get out of your bubble a little bit, break those algorithms a little bit. And for me, Criterion Channel is good for that.
You just need a person to recommend something to you because people can think laterally in a way that an algorithm can't.
Right. And you just never, it's nice to like, to break the cycle and have that. I mean, and there's other servers that can do that too. I mean, Mubi is a good one as well. That's like, has a kind of a different vibe to it. So I guess my recommendation is specifically the Criterion Channel in general, breaking free of the algorithms that are governing and destroying our lives.
Yeah. I mean, Letterboxd is kind of a good way to also have that because you can just see what your friends are watching. Man,
save it for next week. You need you're so bad coming up for Rex. You need one next week.
I got one this week. Yeah.
And that's all I got. Michael, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
first guest. Fun.
Yeah, past, future, and present guest Michael Slater.
Yeah,
that's
thanks
exciting.
for coming on. Thanks for teaching us about Vegas. And
please rate, review, and subscribe.
Please do.
If you like our content, please tell your friends about it. Please repost it on your social media apps if you really like us, but only if you genuinely really want people to know about it. We're not looking for any free help.
I am looking for free help.
Actually, yeah, please just do it. We don't.
There's no shame in asking for help.
Yeah.
If whether you like us or not.
Yeah. If you hate us, just repost us anyway.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, hate, medium. If you're kind of meh on us, if you're mixed, just go ahead and share our shit and get it out there.
Yeah.
Anyway. Goodbye forever.
Bye forever.
Goodbye forever.
Goodbye forever.